Welcome to another episode of the Leading Lessons podcast, connecting with people all over the country to hear their stories and let them have a platform to tell them, everybody, what has worked for them and how they've found success in the world. And this week, I get the opportunity to connect with another marketing genius. So somebody that's actually grown a social media following of nearly 500,000 followers and millions of monthly impressions on his social media page, Snack Time TV. He's also the co-founder of Why Not Media, where he helps businesses maximize their reach to their ideal clients and has been able to be the, head of content creation for the past 7 years, as well as being multifaceted and having a background in stunts that I know he'll want to share a little bit about that. So this week I get the opportunity to introduce Francis Volpe to the call. So Francis, thanks so much for being on the call, man.
Hey Jay, I appreciate you reaching out and asking me to come on and just chop it up and just talk about all things branding, marketing, life, and business, man. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So talk to me a little bit about what is Why Not You Media?
Yeah, so Why Not You Media is I guess the blunt term was by accident. Myself and my business partners now, to kind of give you the background. Tony, so my business partners are Tony Peck and Michael Capozzi. They're both from the Bronx. I'm from Westchester. But Tony and I ended up going to high school together. We went to Fordham Prep in the Bronx together, which is a private all-boys school. We were friends there. Connected. I always have this joke on every single podcast. I was trying to convince him to play football because he's a big guy and a strong guy. So never came out to play football, but he was really very good at discus and shot put. So that was really where he reigned supreme when it came to his athletic career. But we reconnected kind of towards the end of college. I saw him out one night. He was growing a social media presence, and I was like, "Yo, Tone, what are you up to? What are you doing?" And he's like, "Yo, shoot me a DM. Let's get together. Let's get a cigar." So I did exactly that. I met up with him at a place called Doc James Cigar Lounge. We got a cigar, and he was telling me about everything he had going on. He had 13 different accounts, all called Ace of something. So it was Ace of Cigars, Ace of Cars, Ace of Business. And he was just growing them back in the day, and he had grown them to I think upwards over 300,000 followers cumulatively. And he was like, do you want to help me with this? I need some help, and this is my strategy and this is what I do. And I was just like, yeah, why not? I was fresh out of school. Didn't know what I wanted to do because my background, I was working in insurance, and then I ended up breaking my leg really bad, which I had to leave insurance. I healed, got into stunts, which we'll definitely talk about. And then I was working in, I was a loan officer for a little bit. But so Tony and I connected, and then he started this networking group called Diamond Networking on Wednesdays. And, time passed, and, the group started getting smaller and smaller. But it ended up just being myself, Tony, and Michael. And we decided to close the doors. Michael was working as a project manager for a construction firm down in New York City. Tony was also working in construction, and we were like, what can we do together? What can we really do? And we all had the same mindset where we wanted to grow as individuals, but help others grow. But we didn't know the best way to go about doing it. So we were like, all right, let's do events. Because I don't know if you recall, even today, there's a lot of events you go to, and there's always someone on stage trying to pitch you. They're like, oh, buy this, or, you're here today, so you get, 25% off of my package or my course or whatever. So we were like, nah, we don't want any of that. We want people to come to this event and actually learn tangible tasks, skills that they can take and implement into their everyday life to better their lives. However, we ran into a little bit of a roadblock. We didn't have any money. We were 24 years old, 25 years old. And I remember, I'll never forget this. I look at Tony and I say, we should start a media business. And he goes, what? What do you mean a media business? I'm like, look, you were growing a presence on Instagram. People want to know how to do this. Mm-hmm. So we could take what you've done and what you've taught me, and we can teach people to do this for a price. And he goes, that's not a bad idea. Michael was on board, and then we needed the name. And one day we're sitting down talking, and I just blurted out, why not you? It was something that my mom always said to me when I was growing up, why not you? Why can't you become the next big thing? And that was the name. Why Not You Media. We dropped the W and the H, so the Y, symbolizes the individual. Then you have not, you have you have media, boom, we have a media company. And we brought in a buddy of mine that was working for a social media marketing agency down in Florida. He was working remote. He happily consulted with us for about 6 to 7 months, gave us the inside kind of route of what they were doing, how they did it. We kind of took it, made it our own, and we LLC'd in November of 2018. And then Tony and I quit our full-time jobs in February of 2019. And I think about 9 months later, Michael was able to leave his full-time position and went full-time with us, and we haven't looked back.
That's phenomenal. Not many people can say they can do that. That's pretty awesome. What from the early days, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love the story about how the name came to be, because it's something so you even like accidentally dropped it a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. And I think that, when you're thinking about what the business was all about initially, what was the early days like? Trying to figure out what it really looked like.
Yeah, so we were 3 kids. I still consider us kids to this day. We're all 31, but we really had no idea what we were doing. We really didn't. We were selling packages for like $150 a month. We'll manage your page and grow your following and DM people. Like, we really had no idea what we were doing. So the early stages, like I mentioned, Michael was working full time, and Tony and I would sit in the office that I'm actually sitting in right now, that it doesn't look like it did back then, thank God. And we would just sit here and just message people, like 200 to 400 people a day, just trying to connect, trying to just have a phone call, have a meeting, sell them, like anything to just try to build this name and build this brand. And thankfully, we were kind of like first to market in Westchester County, which gave us a leg up. But when I tell you, we really just sat here just messaging people just with sales pitches and phone calls and didn't know what we were doing. It's the God honest truth. Like, if you look up the definition of bootstrap, you would see the 3 of us probably in the dictionary. Like, we bootstrapped this thing, took no outside money. We had people that wanted to invest. We said, no, we're going to do this on our own. Man, within the first 6 months, we did 6 figures. And we were like, yo, like, we have something here. Like, people want this service. We ended up adding a content creator to the mix. Then it was a head of advertising. Then it was an executive assistant. Then it was, account manager. At one point before COVID, we had about 20 employees. We had about 20 people on the team. And obviously COVID happened and we had to make some changes and we kind of had to trim down, but we were growing at a rapid pace. We were really growing fast, but we were just 3 kids figuring it out, whether it was asking people questions, it was seeking mentors, reading, podcasts, YouTube, like you name it, we were consuming it. Like, I would sit in my own office at my house and I wouldn't leave in front of my computer for hours because I would just be watching podcast videos, taking notes from lectures on YouTube about like what this meant when it came to like when you're trying to price, or like how to correctly market yourself and how to build a personal brand. And we just really learned this all on our own. Like, Michael and Tony have engineering degrees. I'm the only one with a business degree, which means absolutely nothing in today's world. But like, when I tell that and I talk about it, like, I get like flashbacks of just sitting in this office till 3-4 o'clock in the morning and going like, is this going to work? Because, we left comfy, things that we were making money to pursue something bigger. And man, it's absolutely incredible what we've been able to accomplish, and it's really just the start. We're so young. Like, we're still all our colleagues are a lot older than us, most of them, and they still see us as kids. They're like, oh, the guys, the kids, because they're all 45 and older. But it's been an unbelievable journey.
You talked a little bit about kind of having to make some changes right during COVID, and that makes sense. A lot of businesses had to. What were some of the hard decisions you had to decide to make at that time? And then the other side of it, how did that change management kind of be facilitated after the fact?
Yeah, so one of the hardest decisions was having to fire almost everybody. Michael handled that side of it. He handled the hiring and the firing, but that was tough because our business was growing and we were onboarding more clients. But when COVID hit and we got shut down, like, it didn't make sense to keep these people on. So that really changed things. But what that really did is during COVID, we kind of developed three pillars to our business. Because at first, and this is for anyone that's listening, when you first are starting a business, especially if you're new to business, you're new to entrepreneurship, you and your business partners are going to be doing everything together. You're going to be coming up with like your emails with each other, your content pillars, like you're going to do everything together. And that's what we were doing. We were doing every single thing together. And then we realized like the three of us have different skill sets. Tony is very much a people person. Like he can literally sit with you and talk to you for 5, 6, 7 hours a pop and not break a sweat doing it. He just loves the network, loves people, loves just brand in general. And then you have Michael, who's back end operations systems. Like I always make the joke that if we didn't have Michael, Tony and I would be still like notepads and pens and like writing like on the walls, like hieroglyphics, trying to figure out what we were doing. And he's helped us automate so many things at this point where it's like clicks of buttons and like our company just runs. And then there's me, like every single customer speaks to me, has to basically see me in one way or another or talk to me because I am the head of content and I'm, always like working with the client, developing new ideas. I'm on the shoots. So once we figured out, okay, Tony does this, Fran does this, Michael does this, we became a smooth operation. And now it's just like blind trust, at this point. Like I don't need to talk to them every single day. Like we do talk basically every day, but we don't have to because we know work is getting done. So it's like a really important thing to understand is like figure out what you're really good at, do that, and then what you're not very good at, delegate to your partners who are probably better than you at that.
I had another individual on the call. I don't know. This was probably about a month and a half ago, and he talked about how one of his biggest decisions was bringing in the wrong person into his business as a partner. He wanted to strategically bring someone on board that he knew was going to help him achieve the growth he was looking for, but it ended up actually turning into the biggest mistake because the way the growth was happening wasn't necessarily what aligned with his morals and how he wanted to do business. So when you talk about blind trust, what does that realistically look like from a day-to-day basis?
It's what it looks like is that your partners have yours and the company's best interest in mind, meaning that they're not doing anything to dilute or completely destroy what it is that you're trying to grow. And when you have blind trust of that, like I know, for example, that Tony isn't sitting in his meeting trying to sell somebody our service, that he's not trying to like backdoor something else that we don't know about. Or Michael's not building processes and automations that are going to hurt us and send emails or invoices to the wrong people. It's just like, and when I'm on content shoots, I'm not telling the client to sound like a bumbling idiot, or I'm not talking bad about other clients, or I'm not giving them wrong direction. It's just like we're at the point now where it's like our whole company, I can literally have access to it. Like if I open up another screen, I have access to my entire company. From financials to our customers to our notes, everything. But like every day, that stuff is getting filled out. It's being sent to who it has to get sent to. I see the emails. We don't see each other's all their text messages, but like we just are at a point that the three of us are just so intertwined that if one of us is to do something really stupid, we would know very quickly, because we all have access to everything. So that's really what blind trust is. And we're also like, we're aligned with the purpose. Now, we've always wanted to do something that is significant, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. Like, we want to impact lives. Obviously, listen, no person gets into business and says, oh, I want to be poor. Like, we're in business to make money, but we are in business to help people and impact people. And we've started to do that big time with our golf outing that we run every year. We run an impact golf outing. This was our 4th year, and we work alongside Blythedale Children's Hospital, and there's over 100 food and drink vendors, 88 golfers. There was 2,000 people at cocktail, and we raised about $57,000 for the charity. So it was a huge event, and the goal next year is 100,000. But like that's what the purpose of this business always has been, is to just do the things that other people wouldn't want to do and make a difference while doing it.
And I think when you do it with the right types of people, you bring those people in your circle, it makes all the hard work pay off so much more. Because if you're kind of fighting up that battle by yourself over and over again, doing the small things every single day, making that impact, but it feels like work. But when you're starting to do it with other people that want to make that impact, that also have the similar goals and trajectory that you're looking for, it makes it almost seamless and painless along the way, even though there's a lot of pain growing through.
Absolutely. There's that old proverb, right? You can go fast alone, but you go further together. It doesn't go exactly like that, but it's the truth. Like, you can do a lot of things by yourself at a really fast rate because you don't have to answer or ask anybody's approval. But now, if you want to get further along, there's going to be certain skill sets that you don't have, but others will. And now you bring them in to help you. It just expedites the process so much more. So something that might have taken you 3 years to accomplish happens in 6 months. Like, I look back and I have to do this more frequently, I feel like, is when I look at what we've done in a bird's eye view. Like, dude, if we showed you our systems and our automations and our back end, like we show some of our clients who have become friends and they run, multi-million-dollar businesses, they're like, how? Like, this is crazy, like how, like you guys are so detailed down to like the decimal. I go, it's just something that because there's three of us, it's not one person doing it. So like we're able to see things that the others don't see when it comes to our business. But it's also, this is something that's super important, is that sometimes nothing in your business has to change. You just have to do more of what you're doing. And I think what happens as entrepreneurs, and I'm prone to this, I always think we have to do something different. I'm like, oh, like, we got to do this. No, it's just like, yo, this works. Just keep doing it. And I think that's the hardest part for people to grasp, is that you don't always need to be looking for something different to do. Just do the same thing that's been working over and over and over again.
There's a lot of value in consistency, and I think the longer you do something the right way, even though it might be incremental increase and incremental benefit, it's going to compound over time. And it's doing the little boring things right every single time that's going to get you to the finish line that you're looking for, the goal that you're looking for. But if you're consistently just moving the target back and forth, and you're trying to make these on the fly changes, you're not going to get with where you want to be because you can't adapt that quickly.
No, you
So
can't.
I love that perspective of, it seems like between the three of you, you all are almost covering each other's blind spots, because what one of you are not successful in, another one can pick up the pieces and make
Yes.
sure they have that covered.
We're like a well-rounded fighter. That's the way I look at it. We can throw the jab, we can block the punch, and we can counter. So that's what you need. And when you have that, listen, growing anything takes time, a lot of time that people are most not willing to do. But when you're able to keep doing the required work day in and day out and not stopping, good things do happen. Everyone, wants to be a millionaire in their 20s and their early 30s because it's like, oh, I can, use this money and go crazy. But it doesn't work that way. The percentage of people that become multi millionaires in their 20s and early 30s is probably less than 1%. Like, it's very difficult to do, depending on what your job or your industry. If you're in sales, like, yeah, if you're selling a high ticket item and you're just a killer, yeah, don't get me wrong, you could make money fast. But if you're trying to build something from the ground up and bootstrapping it, like, none of us got into this saying, oh, we're going to be millionaires by this point. No. Like, we know that, like, it might be not until we're 40. It might not be ever. There's no guarantees, right? But I always look at it. If someone told you at the age of 20, if you work day in and day out, work as hard as you can, and you could become a millionaire by 40, would you take it? Most people would say yes, but until this work actually started, most would give up.
And everybody wants the result. They don't want the journey. And, I think I listen to a lot of stuff like Mark Cuban says, he has more failed businesses than he does successful businesses. It only took him two of them to be the wealth mongol that he is now.
Yep.
And I think that the more that people recognize that it's the failures and the lessons you learn along the way that make you a millionaire, it's not that one-time hit. Because oftentimes you may have failed 3, 4, 5, 6, 16, 17 businesses before you found one that actually worked and actually capitalized.
Yeah. Failure leads to success. The biggest winners are the biggest failures. That's the best way to look at it. Starbucks, perfect example. I don't even know how many pitches that man had to a bank. And then finally, one bank Said yes. And now look at it. You can't drive down the street without seeing a Starbucks. It it's just people don't want to do that required work. It's a microwavable society that we live in, unfortunately.
I really love that analogy because it's so true. It's the instant gratification. And it's interesting because your entire business kind of is fueled by that,
Yeah.
right? The fact that we have these little computers in our pocket 24/7, 365 that can feed us any and all information at any given time of the day is exactly what has led to kind of that instant gratification of, I want this result now. I'm not willing to wait for it.
Yeah.
So for like how you guys have built the business, how does that impact your day to day?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So with our clients, and we set expectations, right? The expectations have to be set because, like you said, you could go on the phone and you open up social media and you see people with posts with millions of views, hundreds of thousands, and it's like, I want that. But people tend to forget that views don't equal dollars. And what I mean by that statement is that if you sell, let's say, for example, you are a pressure washing company, right? And you pressure wash homes. You don't need a million views per video to make money. You could put out content and get 400, 1,000 views, 100 views, and someone sees that and needs your service. That is technically still making money from social media, right? So when we set the expectation and talk to our clients and tell them, like, listen, are you in the business of just getting views or are you in the business of making money? And we technically work with very niche individuals in the professional services industry. So the content that we're creating is speaking to very specific markets and very specific people so that they understand that like 1,000 views to who they're talking to is like a million views because there's not many people that they're speaking to. So it all comes down to what size audience are you talking to? Like, what is that avatar? And once we set that expectation, that's when you get the aha moments from people. And they're like, that makes total sense. Because let me ask you, if I told you, Jay, you can have 1 million followers, right, and not make a lot of money, but you can have 1,000 followers and make $1 million from them on a yearly basis, which one are you picking? It just comes down to that. Like, what do you value? Why are you getting into this game? If you're just looking for virality, dude, I'll tell you, just put yourself in a tub of, rub a bunch of peanut butter all over yourself and run down the street and film it. Like, it'll get some views. But what
Mm-hmm.
comes of that? So it just comes down to setting expectations and letting the customer and people know, like, views don't equal dollars. The right types of views will equal dollars.
Now, what's your perspective coming from the social media background? What's your perspective on all the people building these social media based businesses they're always focusing on how can I make money through the viewership, whether it's through YouTube, whether it's through social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever platform it is, to get paid for the views versus selling? Which approach do you think is more effective?
So your question is that like people are trying to build, like, creators or brands are trying to just grow and monetize the platforms basically? Yeah, so one, it's very difficult. It's not easy to do. So I know there's businesses that are agencies that are built on helping people kind of become influencers, to become creators. Realistically, if you want to monetize a platform such as Facebook, you can monetize, YouTube, you can monetize, and TikTok, you can monetize. Now listen, I'm not speaking out my ass. I have full actual credibility in this sense because like I have monetized all three. I do get paid on a monthly basis from Facebook, from YouTube, and from TikTok. It is hard. It is not easy. It is not something that like you just wake up tomorrow and instantaneously monetize a platform. There are thresholds you need to hit, right? Whether it's a certain amount of followers, certain amount of views in a certain time span in order for the platform to even consider you for their content creator reward programs. And now people are like, "Oh, I could do that." Here's where it gets difficult. Is you're competing with millions of other people for the same eyes. So yes, is it possible? 100%. But you can't expect to just get onto your phone, make your first video, and boom, it pops off, and your TikTok grows to 100,000 followers. Now, don't get me wrong, I've seen it happen, right? But the chances of that happening, one out of, I don't know, maybe 100,000 times that's going to happen to somebody. But when I've had the chance to talk to a lot of creators, it's a grind. It's figuring out what works, what works consistently, what's going to keep, the highest retention rate to actually drive quality view, quality views is how they calculate what's a quality view and get paid on it, right? And that's why you see creators posting and creating in iterations as much as possible, because when that's your full-time job, like your job is to keep people on the platform. So they study and learn these platforms inside and out, and then they execute on the content and are designing and structuring it in a certain way purposely for that platform so that the video does as much possible, I guess, in this sense, attention grabbing as it can to drive dollars to the creator. So it's something that could be done. It's just like to make it something full time. It's hard. I know some full time creators, and it's like some of them say to me like I should have stuck with my 9 to 5 and did this on the side, because you can get tapped out. There's burnout. Some of them are creating every single day. It's a lot. It's a lot of work, and some people don't call it a real job. But I'll tell you something right now. It's a mental job. It's just like anything else.
Well, it could be the highest paid job you have, and it could be the lowest paying job you'll ever have. Because, like anything, you're relying on so many factors that you may or may not even be able to control on a regular basis.
Zero. Nada. Like, you don't control the algorithms. Like, you can post a video and this thing could just absolutely flub, and you think it's going to do amazing, and it does horrible. And then they have, like, TikTok. The video has to be over a minute. Right? Facebook's a little bit more giving. Like they're paying for stories now. They're paying, for different things. But YouTube is all about views, retention rate. You got to keep people on the platform. It's not an easy thing to do because of the fact of how loud it is, especially when you're a creator. A creator, if you're talking to a creator, like someone that just creates content, they just want views and high retention. That's what they're looking for. If they're not selling anything on the back end, depending on what they're doing, what their end goal is, if they are literally just living off of ad revenue, their job is to generate as many views as possible, and they will figure out what it is will garner the most views for them.
So if you were talking to somebody as a client that's looking for, I want to be able to establish a social media presence and go from 0 to, let's even say, just 5,000 followers.
Yep.
What do you think is a realistic timeline for it? And if there was 3 actionable items, what would they need to do on a daily basis to do that?
Great question. Timeline is difficult to give because of the fact that everyone is different, right? Because you have to take certain factors, that there's certain variables that you can't account for. What the person looks like, how they sound on camera, what they wear. Like, all these things do come into play in regards to what's going to actually get people to click that follow button. But the 3 things that you have to be doing, one is you have to become a student of the game. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're I don't know. Let's just say you're looking to do, what's the first thing that comes to my mind? Let's say you want to do space content. You love space, right? I actually have a buddy that's in that world. But like you're all about space, and you want to teach people about UFOs and what's going on with NASA. You better go to every single creator. And listen, you have the power of ChatGPT today, right? You can ask it and prompt it to give you the top creators in that niche. From there, you need to go to every single one of those different profiles and watch and learn and take notes. What are they doing? What does the first 3 to 5 seconds look like on their video? What's their hook? What's the visual? What are they wearing? How are they saying it? What words do they continue to use throughout their videos? What do their visuals look like? Are they using subtitles or are they not using subtitles? And once you start to find like this common denominator across the top creators, you take what you've learned. And the second thing, you have to create a lot, okay? And what I mean by a lot, it's not once a week. It's not once a month. If you are looking to become a creator full time and that's what you want to do, you need to be creating and posting a piece of content 3 to even 10 times a week, right? 3 being the minimum, maybe a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Just also comes down to lifestyle. If you're working a 9 to 5, what you have going on, right? Obviously, I would dive into what their life is like. But if they had nothing going on, I would even tell them you got to post every single day. You got to post every single day, once a day, 7 times a week for the first 3 months. From there, taking the data, looking at it, seeing what's working, what's not working, what video is performing the best. Let's just say we're talking about Instagram. What video performed the best on Instagram and how can we do more of it? And then once we figure that out, you're going to double up. You're going to start posting twice a day, right? Because when you do volume, it's like whoever does the most reps is going to get better faster, right? You're going to just learn faster. And then the third is you have to be engaging with your community. You have to be someone that doesn't just, post and ghost. Get onto the page, answer your comments, answer your DMs, post your stories, engage with your community. Go to other pages of people in your niche and pop up in the comments, answer other people's comments, questions, things like that, just so that you can show like, hey, I'm here. Gary Vee calls it the 2 cents approach, right? Give your 2 cents. So to kind of reiterate, the 3 things I would do is research, become a student of the game, take that information and create content as frequently as you possibly can. And then third, be the mayor. Be loud, engage, comment, really be involved and deep in your community.
Thank you, Francis. I'm sure that a lot of people are looking for exactly that. And even if it's just bringing them 50 more followers, 60 more followers, the fact of the matter is I think all these principles still matter, and engaging with people and having those conversations digitally so that you can feel connected to that community is vital.
Yeah.
Now, I want you to speak a little bit about what was your stuntman life look like? Because it sounded like you broke your leg, then decided to be a stuntman. Like, walk me through this a little bit.
Yeah, so I played college football. I played Division II college football, and when I came home, my buddies were like, "Oh, you gotta come play flag football." And I was like, "All right." I thought it was gonna be like a joke, backyard stuff, whatever. Ends up being some of the most competitive, like recreational sport I've ever played in my entire life. Stiff arms, people getting ran over, fights, like it was crazy. I end up getting caught up during a play, and my leg got stuck and someone fell on it and my fibula broke, and I ended up getting a plate and 9 screws. So while I was bedridden, my mom was putting into my mind, hey, when you get better, I want you to come to this stunt class. I'm like, stunt class? I'm like, what do you mean stunt class? I didn't even know what the hell that meant. And she's like, well, we have a family friend named Chaz Menendez. He runs a stunt class called UATW out of New Rochelle. And I'm like, we'll see. Fast forward, I heal, physical therapy, back to myself. I'm running around, jumping around, being a kid, playing sports. And my mom was like, you're going to come to the class. I'm like, you know what, Ma, for you, I will. So I go to the class, and I walk in, and I'm like, what did I just walk myself into? We're learning camera angles. We're learning how to fall properly, how to correctly throw a movie punch, a movie kick. And now there's people there with martial arts backgrounds. Like, I got to train once with one of the he's a stunt coordinator. He actually gets flown out to train our Navy SEALs Krav Maga, which is like crazy, but he's also a stunt coordinator. His name was, I forget, his first name was Tony. But yeah, so I got to train with all these people, and I remember one day the guy Chaz walks up to my mom and is like, yo, your son has a future in this. Like, he's really good. And just now, every Saturday, I was going and training. And I'm getting to put together fight choreography, learning camera angles, how this should look, shooting, like all these different things. And I'm like, yo, this is a lot of fun. Like, I love this. And I ended up getting my SAG card within 6 months. I worked on a mafia show down in Brooklyn. And then I got to work on a few movies. I got to work on Power, which was on Stars, like 50 Cent show. I got to work on Wu-Tang Clan Saga. And then I just took everything I was learning and put it into the marketing. Because I was just like, and that was my credibility. That's what my business partner would tell people. Oh, Fran came from the movie and TV industry. Like, he knows a lot about content. And that would just give us a layer of trust. And once work got way too busy, I just couldn't do the stunt stuff anymore. It also was just super volatile with work and how often you were working. And not for nothing, it was dangerous as shit. Like, people don't realize how talented the people are, but how dangerous the job is. Falling on concrete, getting lit on fire, jumping out of cars, driving cars. Like, it's really unbelievable what goes down in order to get these iconic scenes that we all love and enjoy to actually happen. And sometimes they only have one shot at it. They're really, like, when we would go on set, they'd be like, all right, stunt, we got this stunt, you got one shot, and you'd have to nail it. So, but that was really where I got, welcome to content, and just fell in love with it, man. And I haven't looked back.
So it sounds like even when you weren't in the media world, you were still trying to paint that picture, tell that story just from a different lens. So I think that's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, it was super enjoyable. It was something I loved it. I'll cherish that time, and I still talk to some of my stunt buddies who are still in it. But I will always cherish that time. I give Chaz. I don't know if he ever listens to any of these episodes that come out when I'm on it, but like I tell people all the time, I give Chaz his kudos and his flowers all the time because like if I hadn't gone to that, and my mom obviously, if I hadn't gone to that class, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you.
That's awesome. Now, Francis, we just have a couple more minutes, man, but
Yeah.
if someone wanted to kind of see what your business is doing and follow along with what you're doing, what's the best way for them to follow along with you? And what is the last thing you would like to leave the audience with today?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on any social media platform, Francis Volpe, Francis. Last name Volpe, Volpe. If you are a fan of the Yankees, same last name as Anthony Volpe, so it's pretty easy. Excuse me. But the last thing I would want to leave with the audience, I think for me, is do not seek the approval. Let me say that again. Do not seek the approval of others. Because when you start seeking the approval of others, you're going to just get discouraged and you're going to start to lose yourself in the noise. So the best thing to do is that if you have a dream, if you have a goal, if there's something that you want to accomplish with your life, just do it. And don't ask anyone, for the approval or to justify why you're doing it. And you will feel so much better because I'm really big. Like I have a little cousin that's 20 and I tell him all the time, I don't want you to grow up with regret. So don't seek approval. Don't look for justification. Just do it. Because you know what? When you're older, 50, 60, 70, 80 years down the line, if you don't have regret and you did it, that's all that matters. Like, stop giving a shit about other people's approval.
I remember at a previous company I was at, we literally had across the wall give a shit factor, which was literally just about, it doesn't matter what happens on the other side of that phone call. Like, you have to give a shit about yourself. You have to give a shit about what you're trying to do. But at the end of the day, if something doesn't go your way, who gives a shit? Let's just go on to the next call. Let's go on to the next meeting. Let's just move forward. And I think for so many people, they get stuck up in the dome too much, where they're just thinking about, am I liked? Am I appreciated? Am I loved? And yeah, all of that stuff is important to an extent, but if you start obsessing over that, you then start making decisions around other people's ideals and wants rather than what's going to drive you further.
Yeah, 100%. I think people don't realize how much of their life is probably dictated by other people. Like, they're actually not even making their own choices. Other people are making their choices for them, and they just don't even realize it's happening. And that's a sad part.
I think you just hit the nail on the head. I think that's a core societal problem we have, right? Relying on other people's opinions to drive your action. When in reality, we also have an inaction problem in the United States where everyone talks about it, but they don't want to be about it.
Yep.
So, Francis, I just want to say thank you for being one of those people that are about it, that are making it happen, that do want to share that message, and your perspective is valuable. And I just want to say thank you for being part of the podcast today. And audience, I hope that you all took something away from today's episode. If you're interested, follow along with Francis both on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Follow his personal page, Snack Time TV as well. And new episodes are posted every single Tuesday on YouTube. Please follow along, subscribe. And if you have any questions or know anyone that you want to be part of the conversation, please DM me. I'm happy to talk to anybody. So thank you for another wonderful episode.
Thank you for having me on, brother. Appreciate it.